And we're at 12:30. So I usually like to start them right on time. I've got some great content for you today to hopefully help you build a simple content plan that helps you support your client conversations. And before we get started, if you have any questions along the way, just put it in the Q&A at the bottom. So it's like the little bubble with the question mark. And then I'll go through those at the end. I usually leave about 5 minutes or so where I can go through your questions and hopefully, help you, inspire you today, some great content. So let's get started. Today is really about simplifying content. So most of the advisors I talk to, they want to show up consistently, but content often feels disconnected from their actual work. So it feels like there's something you're supposed to do on the side instead of something that supports your business. So my goal today is to show you how content can support the conversations you're already having with clients and not add to your to-do list. So we're going to focus on a simple, repeatable approach that works across social media, in your client meetings, follow-ups, newsletters, really wherever content can kind of show up. And it's nothing fancy, hopefully not overwhelming, and just a system that fits into how advisors are actually using content today in their workflow. So for those of you I haven't met, I'm Emily Reed. I'm the CEO and co-founder of HeyAdvisor. So before starting HeyAdvisor, I spent many years working as a financial advisor and working closely with other advisors across Canada. I've sat in meetings, worked with compliance, and tried to help simplify complex topics in a way that didn't overwhelm clients. So what I saw over and over again was that advisors were having great conversations with their clients, but those conversations weren't always being reinforced outside of the meeting or when they're on the phone with their clients. So now what I get to do is help advisors across Canada use educational content in a way that feels practical, is compliant, and realistic for how busy you are in your business. So everything I'm sharing today as well is from real conversations with advisors, users of HeyAdvisor across the country, and it's not just theory. So we'll jump right in. A good content plan should actually make your life easier. So first, it should help stay visible between meetings. So that might be through like an email to clients, a newsletter you're doing, social media, or your website. The key is that your clients don't want to just hear from you once a year. So creating a good content plan can actually increase that visibility. Second, it helps prepare clients before conversations. So this is a big one. Think about how much time you spend in the meeting talking, explaining things before you can actually dive in. If you set the stage with a good content plan ahead of time, then clients can come into the meeting more engaged, ready to ask questions, and you can really make an impact in that small amount of time. And then third is it can help make easy follow-ups. Make it more consistent for you as well. So instead of trying to remember what to send each meeting, if you have good content and a plan behind it, you already have that content ready to go. So when content isn't doing these things, it usually means that there's too much of a complicated plan happening, or there's a disconnect from how you're actually working in your day-to-day and where the content fits in. So why does content feel harder than it should? I get this a lot of the time from advisors, like they have good intention to start a content plan, to be more consistent on social media and newsletters, but it feels a lot harder than it is. The first one is there's no time. So we're all time starved. You guys are all busy between client meetings and follow-ups, the admin part of running a business, compliance. Content always feels like something extra. And the problem is that it's not that you don't care about it, it's that content often doesn't feel directly tied to revenue generating or client servicing activities. So it ends up being pushed to when I have time, which usually means never. The second one is not sure what to post. So I get this all the time. Advisors sit down, they want to have the intention of posting something, and then they're just not sure what to post. They wonder maybe like what's appropriate, what would be useful for my audience, what have I already shared, what could I be sharing? And when content feels like it needs to be original or clever, it becomes like mentally exhausting for a lot of people to try to even think about creating it. An advisor had said to me at one point, he was like, I don't mind sharing the content. I know I can sit down and share it across social media by scheduling or in a newsletter. I just don't want to have to think about what to send every week. And that's fair. That's a common concern. The third one is compliance. So in such a regulatory environment, even when you have ideas about content you could be sharing or creating, a lot of time it gets stopped by compliance. And there's often fear of saying the wrong thing. You're maybe thinking you might oversimplify things or accidentally cross over into like advice content, which isn't good. So instead of risking it, a lot of advisors choose to be silent. They just choose not to do it. And that isn't great for your visibility and all of those other great things I was saying about why you should be doing content or having content plan. And then finally, it doesn't feel like real client work. So it doesn't feel like it's connected. And this is the big root of it all. When content feels only like it's marketing, it feels disconnected from the actual conversations you're having. So advisors, obviously in front of your clients, you're maybe right now it's RSP season, you're talking about RSPs, maybe you're doing some insurance planning, talking about market behavior, and then you have content that doesn't fit that. It doesn't make a lot of sense. So none of these are really like motivation problems, they're really structural problems. So when content feels like something you have to invent, it'll always fall to the bottom of the list. But when you're anchored in real client conversations, it can stop feeling like extra work and actually complementary to the work you're already doing. And that's the shift in focus I'm hoping we kind of go through today. So this is an important part of the shift. Don't always think about content as marketing. Think about it as communication. So in the communication part of your business, content isn't about selling products or promoting yourself. It's really about making sure that you have communication points out there so that it makes it really easy for clients and prospects to spark a conversation and reach out. It supports the conversations you're already having, I think is a big one. Reinforces the advice you're giving. So content should definitely reinforce advice and help people like if you talk to them about something personal in their situation, the content should support that. And then it keeps you present in between meetings, which is really important because even if you have a team, I was gonna say you're one person, you most likely have a team, maybe you're 2-3 people. There's only so many of you compared to your client base. So how do you stay present in those in between meetings when you can't be face-to-face? Content is a great way to do that. So when advisors stop thinking about content as marketing and start thinking about it as client communication, it starts to get easier to see how it can fit into your overall workflow and why you might want to prioritize it. So these are some of the moments that are common that I hear from advisors of like where content naturally fits in. So buying a home or planning a move, career change or business growth. And I even add to that one as like selling a business as well. It's going to spark a lot of wealth building opportunities where content can kind of fit in. Starting a family or supporting aging parents as well. There's a lot of money in motion at that time. There's a lot of wealth building opportunities that come up. And then retirement planning or market uncertainty is another one. So think about your calendar throughout the year, and these topics are probably already coming up in meetings. You're already talking about them. It's just a matter of like when you usually see this. And then content should reflect these conversations. So for example, if market volatility is something that's coming up often, that's your theme. When content aligns with these real conversations and moments, it becomes even more relevant instead of just like generic content online. So we work with an advisor who specializes in business owners. So she was pretty focused on making sure that her content reflected issues and conversations she was having with business owners or like incorporated professionals. So every quarter she would plan out her content and make sure it tied back to like conversations that were relevant at that time. So whether it was like salaries or dividends or like retirement planning or tax considerations. And she actually started noticing success in these moments because clients started referring to them on like in the meeting about what they'd seen online. So they were like, oh, I saw you had posted something last week about tax considerations for incorporated professionals. And that's when she was like, wow, it is actually hitting my clients through an online presence. And then instead of thinking of content as like one thing, so I know during the meeting is a great place to share content, and that's where a lot of advisors think about, because they're usually in those meetings explaining concepts. So that's usually where supportive content kind of helps. But there's also an opportunity before the meeting and after the meeting to share content as well. So before the meeting, it can help prepare and set context. So this could be like a short video or an infographic. I know a lot of advisors using HeyAdvisor use the HeyAdvisor library and kind of pick a piece that has the theme to what they're going into the meeting and just sends it directly through there, which is great. And it allows clients to have a little bit of a moment to think about and plan ahead. And so when they come to the meeting, they come prepared with questions, maybe some concerns they're already having, and allows you to dive into their situation. Then during a meeting is great. Again, anytime you can kind of shift the dynamic of presenting and talking to like a video or an infographic, a visual, it's great during a meeting. And then post-meeting is really important as well. So I know a lot of advisors doing like meeting notes and meeting summaries, which is great, and like an action to-do list that goes out after. That's really important and timely within the first, I think, like couple days of a meeting. But what about like a week after or 2 weeks after? Is there something you could send the client to reinforce what you were talking about, to maybe educate them, reinforce that why? It helps with that like emotional part of like buyer's remorse. Like, what was the reason that we did that? What was the reason we're thinking about it? It reinforces that so they can feel more confident with the decisions that were made during the meeting. It also, if you do this, you're sending an email like a week before the meeting, then you have the meeting, and then a couple weeks after, you're also sending a follow-up. You've just stretched like a half hour, 1 hour meeting to like a month of communication. So say you have like 2 meetings a year with clients. Now you've got 2 months of the year that you know they're having communication with you, and then you can start to add more and more to that. So kind of stretches out the value of the meeting as well as that open communication longer. So this stat really highlights like that missed opportunity of the follow-up. So only 27% of advisors consistently follow up with educational content after the meetings. Most advisors have really strong meetings that I think they go really well, and there's lots of great advice that's given and the planning moves forward. But the problem is, again, what happens after. So when a client leaves the meeting, they can often, depending on how much was covered, can often feel a little bit overwhelmed. Even if there was great advice, that can get lost. Again, that powerful why that's coming out of it might start to slip a little bit. So you can share educational follow-up and help reinforce key ideas, and reduces that second guessing feeling of like, why were we doing that? How did that fit into the overall plan? And kind of to decrease those moments. So social media, I want to talk a little bit about social media. I don't think of social media as like a separate strategy. If you're doing social media right, it should be something that you're using to extend client conversations. So it keeps you visible between those touch points. Even your clients, like I know people think of social media as marketing, but there is a client engagement element to it as well. And it can also support referrals and prospects who are paying attention quietly. It keeps you visible between those touch points, which I think is really important. And again, like between meetings, and then, sorry, I said this already, but supports referrals and prospects. I think that part is important because what hasn't changed in the business is that the most successful advisors out there are still getting majority of their business from referrals, whether that's like strong client referrals or COIs. But what has changed is what happens when someone gets a referral to you is they search your name. They try to find out a little bit more about you, who you are, who you help, maybe like where you're located, a little bit about your team. And they don't initially always take that action to get in touch with you. They kind of watch and they scroll and they read what you're posting. So when your social content reflects real conversations you're having with clients, it reinforces everything you're doing that they are hearing about you as well. So this slide is hopefully meant to take the pressure off of you that are hoping to build like a good social media presence. You believe it's important, like I said, from the referrals, being able to see who you are. But hopefully it takes the pressure off like getting started. So a good social media presence is educational, it's consistent, and it's simple. It does not need to be salesy. It shouldn't be salesy, in my opinion. It does not need to be time consuming. This is not your main job is social media. It's kind of secondary supportive to everything that's going on, and definitely does not need to be perfect. So the goal is really a helpful and presence online, unless you're trying to be an influencer, which I don't think a lot of you are. You're not trying to compete with an influencer who's creating content and sharing like multiple times a day. And I always say to advisors, I think the goal is to get to 1 weekly post, and that's enough. That's enough to do what you're trying to do, which is show that you have a presence online and share what you do to help your clients. So most advisors I know actually see better results posting less. I think because it can be overwhelming to think they're going to post multiple times a week. And the algorithms also love consistency. So you're better to start on like a 1 post a week plan and do that for 12 weeks than for 3 weeks go crazy and do a post every day and then stop for months. One advisor, he came to us like he was feeling so burned out at the thought of this multiple times a week. And it's really coming back to the reason why you're doing it. That's not necessarily needed for what you're trying to achieve. So with this advisor in particular, he started actually doing it like Fridays. And it was just like a shift. He was like, every Friday, I'm just going to post something. And he got more engagement. People started commenting about it more. And he noticed it was just an easier mindset for him and still achieved that same goal. So if you ever feel stuck on what to post, my advice is like, don't go researching what other advisors are doing. You can actually look within your own business and come up with what kind of content to be posting out there. So think about, what did my clients ask me this week? So what were the conversations that you were having? What meetings do you have coming up? So again, like RSP season, I think that's a great one. Very timely if you're in that business. And then what topic do I find myself explaining over and over again? What are those few things that you find yourself to different clients, or maybe even to the same client, repeating conversations because they're still relevant? Those are the content kind of themes that you should really be going for, and that's unique to your own business. This one's just like a quick screenshot or snapshot, sorry, of all the different social media platforms we get asked about. So my biggest advice with this is post to where your clients are. So I'll go through them really quickly. LinkedIn is actually, so it's 25 to 35 is the main demographic using LinkedIn. It's for professionals, business owners, executives, which I think we all know. And the content that works here is really like thought leadership, so helpful expertise. So educational content that's actually helpful to the audience is what kind of hits well here. Facebook has a wider range of ages, so it's 35 to 65, very community oriented. That's why there's lots of like groups and social chats within there. Families, older demographics love to spend a lot of time on social media, on Facebook. And the content that works here is really simple educational posts written in plain, simple language. So really short educational pieces. Instagram, I think it's no surprise, it's younger. So it's 18 to 29, lifestyle focused users, young professionals and families. They want human and helpful content, education that looks clean and easy to share. So they want to know if you're posting to Instagram, the HeyAdvisor content works really well there from the educational standpoint, but then a little bit about like, who are you? What do you like to do on the weekends? A little bit about your office, the people that work with you. That human and helpful element together is really what works on Instagram. And then TikTok. So I do get asked about TikTok. It's 18 to 29. It's people that are aware of trends, high video consumption, which I'm not surprised by with all the scrolling, and then discovery driven audience. So they're there to learn, they're there to do something, they want to discover new things. It's simple, snackable education. So we do have actually advisors using HeyAdvisor content on TikTok. And if you're ever interested in learning about that, just let me know. But what they're doing is taking the templates and then putting themselves behind it and kind of using like a green screen kind of way of doing it to get into that market, because it is a different way of consuming content on TikTok. But with all of these, I would say the biggest thing is, where are your clients? That's where you should be focusing your effort. You don't need to be posting to all of them just because you think you should be. Then there's a variety element that gets a lot of advisors ask me about, well, what about the variety and how do I kind of change things up to keep it fresh and interesting? The first one you can do is rotate formats, not topics. So you don't need new themes every week, even every month or quarter. Take a core topic and rotate how it shows up. So one week it's a short video, maybe from the HeyAdvisor library. The next one you're sharing an infographic. Maybe you're also sending a quick email to your clients on that subject, or like social posts. So same message, different formats. It'll keep the things fresh without having to reinvent the wheel. The second is to use the same idea in different ways. So a single piece of content can live in multiple places. So a video that you could pull from the HeyAdvisor library, you can share that in a client email, you can post it to LinkedIn, you could put it on your website, you could use it as a pre-meeting email or post-meeting follow-up. You're not repeating yourself, you're actually reinforcing the same message across different touch points. And you could also reuse the same idea. LinkedIn after a year actually deletes your posts. You can't scroll past a year. So after a year, you're wiped fresh anyway. So as long as you're kind of doing it from a yearly perspective, doesn't matter if you're same thing. I think it would be hard to find someone that was like, I saw that video you posted 26 weeks ago on LinkedIn and I'm not interested anymore. I think it actually reinforces that you're sharing the same point, you still have the same values and way of running a business. And then keep the message consistent. So consistency builds trust. Again, we feel like we don't want to repeat ourselves, but it sometimes takes 2, 3, 4 times for the same message to finally hit. And you never know when that point will be. So keeping it consistent isn't a bad thing. So when you're creating a content calendar, it's always good to start big picture. What are the big quarterly themes going to happen this year that you can kind of touch on? Many of you have been in the business for years. You know how this kind of works, and seasonally, which kind of issues are going to come up and how you can educate there. Then monthly, kind of take a focus of what's going on this month. Things change. Obviously, market volatility is one where you're going to be more heavy on that when markets are down, but you still want to be educating on that when markets are up, because they will go down. And then weekly, so really narrow down to weekly conversations. And that's where you can look at, what are clients asking me about? What are they concerned about? What's keeping them up at night? And that's how you can educate and create your calendar. I always like to touch really quickly on compliance, because I think it's really important as we operate in such a regulatory environment. There's a couple things when you're creating content, if you are, and things that we do personally, within our content creation, to make sure they are compliant. Focus on the what and the why, not what to do. So making sure that you are educating, not giving advice. No one should ever read a piece of content you have out there and know exactly what structure to go forward with. It should really ask them to speak to you. That's what their action item should be. It should be a call to action that way. And then encourage learning, not advice. So again, making sure that you are giving them clarity and context and understanding, and not the instructions on what to do. So as we're in the last 5 minutes, for those of you using HeyAdvisor, you probably already know this, but I'll just remind you, we're a subscription-based library with over 300 pieces of compliant videos and infographics. And for some of our larger organizations, we actually handle the compliance on our end. So if you're thinking of using a HeyAdvisor and you want to know if it's compliant with your organization, just send me a quick email and I can let you know. And if we're not, we can always get in touch with them and start that process. Make it really easy to share. So we have already created all the email templates and social media captions for each piece, so you don't have to have that guesswork as well. And we have proven engagement from advisors. So we've been in the business now just over 5 years and have advisors that have been with us on the journey this whole time, which is amazing. I get lots of great feedback, and I'm always sharing success stories to spark ideas. We also have a really easy content request process within the library. So again, if you follow what I said today, you're thinking of your client conversations, you search for a piece and there isn't one there, let us know because we'll create it for you. So from theme to share in minutes. So really quickly, as you create your content calendar, you choose a theme, you're going to open up the HeyAdvisor library, pick the piece that works with the theme using our filters. So if you're using life events, I'll show you in a second. And then share social or send to the client. Like just do it then, get it done, and kind of share easily that way. So the HeyAdvisor library is sorted by life events, and that wasn't by accident. These are times when money's in motion. This is how you can start to create like themes based on your client base and the ages and stages that they are at. Really quickly within the library, you can sort that on the left-hand side, and it'll kind of filter the content to fit those conversations. So it makes it more relevant and easier to use in real conversations, because this is when people are looking for professional advice, and this is when your services will be used most. So why not kind of build your content calendar based on that? If you're not sure where to start and you want some ideas, we do have a free monthly content guide that you can download just using that QR code with your phone. It'll send you an email with it, and it just kind of gives you some ideas throughout the year of themes and some HeyAdvisor content pieces that match within there, so that you can start to kind of build your own content calendar for your business. And with that, I don't know if there's any questions. If you have any questions for me, my email's there. You can always book a demo with me if you're not an existing HeyAdvisor user with that QR code. Or if you're an existing HeyAdvisor user, or you have a member of your team that you want to get in contact with me and kind of talk about how this could work in your business specifically for you, you can book a time with me there as well. So I'm just going to check the Q&A to see if there's any questions. There's one here. It says, how do I know if this is actually working? So I'm assuming this probably means to like the social part of it, because I think direct client, obviously you'll kind of get feedback there. How do you know if a social media presence is actually working? It's interesting. The first signs of whether your online strategy is working is actually how it shows up offline. So are clients kind of referencing what you're talking about online? Are they referring to posts? Are like Center of Influences doing that as well? Oh, I saw you posted this video. That was really interesting. That kind of real life feedback tells you if it's working. Social presence does take a while to build, but again, it's more of that, like, what is your referral doing when they hear about you? You want to have something online for them to look at. Do you suggest I mix my own content with HeyAdvisor content? Yeah, if you are able to create your own content, it's great as a complement to what HeyAdvisor has. Our only job is to create content, so we're good at creating it on a consistent basis. So there will always be new content in the library for you to share, as well as the history of the library of over 300 pieces. So I have a lot of teams that use the quick insights from HeyAdvisor as the educational portion, and then they complement it with their own personal content about their team, who they are, and that. So yeah, for sure. If you have a system for that, it's great to kind of spread them out together. Okay, well, if anybody has any other questions, you know how to get in touch with me. Thank you so much for being here today. I've really appreciated your time and hopefully spark some ideas.